So it is that time of the week again, and we're back with our championship score predictions. Really excited to get into this week. We've got some good games coming up. Apologies that I've not been able to get too many videos out lately. I've just been really busy with uni work and everything lately. A part of me is still a bit angry about that game that went on with North End on Monday night, but we'll get to that later in the video. As always, all this weekend's games will be in the description down below so that you guys can go ahead and make your score predictions. And if you do get any of them right, your comment will be included next time. And before we do get into anything, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors over at OneFootball. As always, their link will be in the top link of the description down below. Over on there, you can go ahead and track all the games that are going on this weekend, and we got a good selection of them. We got one game going on tonight, a game on Sunday, and a whole bunch of them on Saturday, so you can go ahead and get live updates to your phone to track everything that's going on. It's a really handy thing to have, and it keeps you updated, and I'd highly recommend it. But without any further ado, let's hop into my score predictions. So starting it out with the game going on tonight at the Den, which sees Millwall going up against Forest. Now Millwall unbeaten in their last 5 home matches. It's not going to be an easy one, but I would say that Forest have been fairly consistent on the road so far this season. It's been some of their showings at home which have let them down so far. Obviously they will be looking to bounce back from a defeat last time, losing against Cardiff, and I see a few similarities between the way that Cardiff played in that game and the way that Millwall may look to play in this one. Cardiff were happy to let Forest have the ball. I think that Forest had about 70% possession in that one. They had 32 shots, but only 4 of them being on target, and they just failed to break down quite a deep line block. And if Millwall look to play in that way, Forest don't always have the capabilities of breaking that down. Obviously, if you come onto this Forest side and really start to play football with a high line, they can absolutely tear you apart. We saw that in their last away match when they put 4 goals past QPR. But if you're looking to be solid at the back, I expect Millwall to set up with 2 banks of 4 like they've been doing for the majority of the time on the route so far. They'll make it a tough game for them, and it's also too important to remember the quality that Millwall have going forward as well. Jed Wallace, I think, is in a fantastic run of form at the moment. He was playing as a number 10 in their last game against Birmingham, where I thought they got quite unlucky not to win. Actually, they had some great chances going forward. So for this one, I don't think there'll be ultimately goals scored. Forest have been able to keep games fairly tight at the back so far this season as well. So for a prediction, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. FIFA saying 0-0. I don't think there'll be all too much in that game. Into Saturday's games, we then got Huddersfield going up against Leeds. Now Leeds at the moment on a fantastic run of form. They've won their last 5 matches, unbeaten in their last 8 in the Championship. They're scoring a lot more goals now as well. They put 4 past Middlesbrough last time out, and they could really cause Huddersfield some problems, who conceded 5 last time against Bristol City, and their defence was looking quite susceptible in a couple of areas. However, one thing you would say about Huddersfield is their home record has been very consistent lately. They're unbeaten in their last 6 home matches, but Leeds, you feel like, are on a bit of a different level from some of the other sides they've been playing at home lately. Leeds, I don't think you can pick out any player from their current starting 11 and say that they're not on form at the moment. You know, a few weeks ago there were some questions over the likes of Patrick Bamford and maybe someone like Helder Costa as well, but lately they've all been brushed to one side. Bamford's been a striker playing with a bunch of confidence, been heavily involved in their play going forward, and Helder Costa as well, also someone who's starting to contribute a lot more in terms of the output for goals and assists that he's getting at the moment. So Leeds are dominating games now. Click scored an absolute worldie in their last game, and they're going to make it difficult for Huddersfield. They're going to press them off the ball, and it's just a question of if Huddersfield can live with that. Huddersfield, they do have players going forward like Colin Grant, who's on a fantastic run of form at the moment, Alex Pritchard, who seems to be growing into the season as it goes on, but in terms of quality, I think that Leeds may just continue this run in this one. So I think they'll get the job done, and I'll go for a 2-1 away victory, with FIFA saying it'll be 1-0 Leeds. And then we got Blackburn going up against Derby. 2 quite hot and cold sides so far this season. You never quite know what you're going to get from these 2, but Derby away from home, they've been less than impressive really. Only 1 win away from home so far this season. That was on the opening day against Huddersfield. Going up against the Blackburn side, who have been a lot more consistent lately, especially at home at Ewood Park. They've won their last 3 home matches and are unbeaten in their last 5. They've also been playing some decent football lately as well. That goal they scored against Brentford was absolutely fantastic. The build-up play to that one. Bradley Daka play, who's really been in the goals for them lately. He scored 4 goals in his last 3 matches for Blackburn, so he's obviously going to be a danger man for them going forward for this one. And defensively as well, I also think that Blackburn have looked better lately. Earlier on in the season, and we have seen a couple of examples of Blackburn being an absolute wreck at the back. You know, even in the game they had against Barnsley fairly recently, they were looking all over the place. But their last 2 games, I think they defended really well against Brentford and against Stoke away. So for this game, I think I've got to be backing Blackburn with the form they're in at the moment. I'm going to go for a 2-1 home victory, with FIFA saying it'll be 2-0 Rovers. Then we got Cardiff going up against Barnsley. Barnsley will be looking to continue with the momentum that they picked up last time after finally picking up another win, their 2nd of the season at home against Hull, putting 3 goals past them. And going forward, even in the time that Barnsley have been losing as many games as they have, they've still been creating a lot of chances going forward and causing sides problems. But going away to a side like Cardiff, who have been very consistent at home, home so far this season, only losing 1 game. Their record under Neil Harris has also been impressive so far. They seemingly have got that new manager bounce. They're unbeaten in the 3 games that he's been in charge so far. It was a fantastic win last time against Nottingham Forest, against all odds really. Not a lot of people fancy them to get much from that game, but winning it by 1-0. It's going to be a different dynamic for this one because Cardiff are going to be expected to take the game to Barnsley a little bit more than they did to Forest. Obviously, it was a different game plan in that one, but in the games where Cardiff are looking to be a little bit more dominant and stamp their authority on things, we see a few limitations to their game plan perhaps, but someone like Lee Tomlin I think will be very important in a game like this. For a lot of the times that I've seen Cardiff lately, I think he's been their key creative spark going forward really, and if they are going to conjure up much, he's going to be at the centre of that. Barnsley certainly capable of scoring goals, but even with that win last time, I still think they're very susceptible to making a clanger or two. So for a prediction, I think I'm going to go for Cardiff winning this one. I'm going to say 2-0. FIFA's going to agree with me for that one. Fulham versus Bristol City should be a fantastic game. Fulham probably one of the most informed sides in the league at the moment. They've won their last 4 matches and they've been surging up the championship. Ever since that defeat against Hull City, they've responded excellently from it. They've been scoring a lot of goals lately. Mitrovic is on a ridiculous run of form at the moment. If you count international goals, then he scored 7 goals in his last 5 matches. He's on a serious hot streak at the moment. And the thing about Fulham is they don't necessarily even need to play that well to be winning matches at the moment. It's just if you give Mitrovic 1 or 2 chances going forward, he's going to take them. You know, we saw that in their last game against Swansea where it wasn't a vintage performance from Fulham, but they got the job done with the chances they were creating for Mitrovic. Going up against the Bristol City side, who obviously at times can leave themselves a little bit open with the shots they face per game, and that really could play into Fulham's hands if Bristol City aren't defensively sound for this one. But scoring goals definitely wasn't an issue for Bristol City in their last match. They were absolutely ruthless against Huddersfield going forward, putting 5 goals past them in a 5-2 victory. And Bristol City lately have had a couple of sort of up and down performances in terms of what we're expecting from them, but if they continue from where they left off against Huddersfield, then this one should be an absolutely fantastic game in terms of goals being scored. I can see this one being a fairly open game, but with Fulham being at home, I think they've got the 2nd best home record so far this season. I think I'm just edging towards them for this one. I'm going to say 2-1 Fulham. FIFA's going to say 1-1. Bristol City will definitely put up a fight in that one, and I mean, they're more than capable of getting something from it. Hull versus Stoke comes up next. Probably 2 of the most unpredictable sides in the championship, so God knows what's going to happen this week in this one. But Hull, they're impossible to call. We saw them battering my side North End in midweek, and then they followed it up by losing against Barnsley, who hadn't won since the opening day of this season. So an impossible team to call at the moment. One thing that did have an effect on that game against Barnsley was some of the injuries that Hull have picked up lately. Josh McGuinness missing from that one, although I don't really rate him as, you know, one of the best strikers in the league. I thought he had a really good game against Preston, and he helped Jared Bowen coming into that game. You know, Bowen against Barnsley was playing as that number 9, and they weren't quite as fluid going forward with that system. Going up against Stoke, they're a bit of an odd team at the moment because I do, when watching them, see that they have a few more goals in them now. Obviously, we saw them put 4 goals past Barnsley a few weeks ago, but defensively, I still think there's a lot of areas to exploit within that Stoke squad. You know, we saw it in the game they had against Blackburn last time where they were piling people moving forward, looking for that winner in that one, but they left themselves open at the back and in the end ended up conceding late on and losing that game. And going up against a side like Hull, who have been scoring a lot of goals at the KCOM lately with the likes of Bowen and Grosicki, they could have an absolute field day if this Stoke squad defensively isn't in shape for this one. So for a score prediction, I'm going to say 3-2 Hull. I'm going to go for a bit of a mad one for that one. FIFA's saying 1-1. I think there'll be goals. I think Hull will win, but God knows with how inconsistent they are. And a massive game at the bottom sees Luton going up against Wigan. Now, neither of these sides are on a good run at all at the moment. Luton have won 1 out of their last 5. Wigan have won none of their last 5 games. Luton obviously coming off the back of an absolute horror show, a disaster against Brentford, losing 7-0. Are they going to be able to come up with a performance in this one though? I feel like it's a must-win game for both sides. Even this early on to the season, there's only 1 point that separates these two at the moment, with Luton just 1 point above Wigan. Wigan have only picked up 3 points on the road so far this season. They're yet to win an away match, and I couldn't tell you how many winning positions that Wigan have got into in games so far this season, and they've just thrown them away. They cannot see games out at the moment. They were leading the game last time against Reading for the majority of it, and then they just collapsed for the last 10 minutes and ended up losing it by 3-1. Against Millwall, they took the lead twice in that game and ended up drawing. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's mentally or just the quality on the pitch, they just don't seem to have it there at the moment. And Luton, although they can score goals, they really cannot defend. For this game, I'm going to say that Wigan will take the lead and then that Luton will have a dramatic comeback in this one. And for a prediction, I'm just edging towards Luton. I think with their home record being superior to Wigan's away record, I'm just going to say Luton 2-1. FIFA's going to say 1-0 Wigan. That's a massive game. Then we got Middlesbrough going up against Charlton. Neither side on a particularly great run of form at the moment. Middlesbrough only won 1 of their last 12 matches. Charlton only won 1 of their last 10 matches. So a good opportunity for either of them to maybe start to build a bit of momentum. Middlesbrough last time out had a bit of a disaster against Leeds, but in fairness, I don't think that anyone was expecting them to get anything from that game, losing it 4-0. They did win their last game at the Riverside, 1-0 against Barnsley, and it's going to be games against sides like Barnsley and against Charlton, who aren't going to run at the moment, which is going to define Middlesbrough's season from now on. Charlton, obviously, ridiculous injury crisis. Lee Bowyer's got about 14 senior players to pick from. He will have Conor Gallagher back from suspension for this one, and I also believe that Chuck Zaniki and Lyle Taylor will both be back on the bench for Charlton for this one, so a massive boost for them going forward. Obviously, I think that Bon and Lecco have done decent in filling the void for Taylor, but having Taylor back cannot be underestimated for Charlton. For the game itself, and there's neither side's been on a particularly great run of form at the moment, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think they'll cancel each other out. FIFA's going to say 1-0 Charlton. Low scoring, not much in it for me. And in the Loftus Road, we got QPR going up against North End. Now, we need to take a second to talk about what happened on Monday night. We've not had the chance to talk about it on the channel so far. Preston losing their first home game of the season against West Brom in very dramatic circumstances. Honestly, I'm still a bit annoyed about that game, as you probably would be. Obviously, losing the game in the manner that we did to a penalty in the last minute, which, let's face it shouldn't be given as a penalty, and we've gone on to lose that game. I thought we played actually quite well in that one, considering some of the players we had out injured. You know, Paul Huntington came in, I thought did an excellent job at centre-back next to Jordan Story. We had Alan Brown playing at right-back, and we certainly soaked up the pressure for that first half, but in the second half we offered something going forward. We had quite a few chances. Sam Johnson made a terrific save against DJ. In the end, it was just that dive for the penalty that ended up winning it for West Brom. So, a lot of positives that we could take from that performance, but it doesn't put points on the board from us, because realistically, we have still lost our last 3 matches, and since the international break, we've just completely fallen off a cliff. I don't know how we still find ourselves in the top 6, but going up against a side like QPR, who defensively have been very susceptible lately, they've conceded 14 goals in their last 6 matches, so when you're averaging conceding more than 2 goals a game, you know you're in trouble defensively. And it's going to be an interesting one, because Preston at home and Preston away are 2 completely different sides at the moment. Preston at home are the top scorers in the league with 25 league goals, but away from home, we're the lowest scoring away team with only 6 goals on the road this season. So it's a really tough one to bridge that gap as to why the levels of performances are so different for us. If we can't hit the back of the net against QPR away, then we never are going to, because they're the only side in the league yet to keep a clean sheet so far this season. QPR do offer that goal threat going forward though. Naki Walls and Jordan Hugill, a very underrated partnership, which I think could cause us some problems if we don't have players returning. For a score prediction, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Neither side's on the great run of form at the moment, and FIFA's going to agree with me for that one. I think we'll cancel each other out. Then we got Reading going up against Birmingham. Now, Birmingham have drawn their last 3 matches 1-1. It became a bit of a meme on the channel a while ago that I was always predicting Birmingham to draw, but that's exactly what they're doing at the moment. They have only won 1 of their last 6 matches now, so they'll be hoping to put that right in this game, but not going to be easy. Reading obviously started life under Mark Bowen absolutely fantastically. They then ran into a bit of a tough patch, a couple of tricky fixtures where they lost a few games, but they certainly bounced back last time against Wigan Athletic, turning that game around late on. They were trailing for the majority of it, but Puskas came up with an unbelievable hat-trick late on to win that game 3-1, and Puskas' form coming into this game will read a lot into what sort of player he is, because if he goes and absolutely smashes it from here on in, it'll show to us that he is that sort of confident striker that does need that sort of thing behind him. But he was fantastic in the second half against Wigan. That second goal was absolutely sublime, brilliant footwork for it. Reading should also have some returning players coming back in for this one. I think that Jaria is back for contention for this game. That's going to be a massive boost for them in midfield. Birmingham lately defensively, I think, have been looking a lot better since Truman's come into the side. I think he's been having some fantastic performances since coming in as their number 1 and pushing Lee Camp out of the side. But for a prediction for this one, I think that Reading might have a little bit more going forward. I'm going to go 2-1 Reading, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be 2-0 Reading. Sheffield Wednesday against Brentford comes up next. Now, it would be typical of the Championship for Brentford, after coming off the back of a 7-0 hammering of Luton, to go and lose this one 1-0 away at Sheffield Wednesday. It will be typical. If that does happen, then I'm not shocked. I'm just putting that out there right now. But obviously, Sheffield Wednesday so far under Gary Monk, I'd say have been functional. They've not always been the best, you know, sort of sparkling side going forward, but they've been alright so far under Monk. Fairly consistent. Goals sometimes have been a bit of an issue, but they put 3 past Charlton last time. At home lately, especially Wednesday, have been consistent, being unbeaten in their last 6 games at Hillsborough. But Brentford have a tendency about them, and when they are in the mood going forward, we saw it last time against Luton, they can absolutely steamroll past teams. De Silva, absolutely absolutely fantastic for them lately. That forward three has always been on form so far. I think Westwood's still going to be out for Wednesday. Forestieri's also a doubt for this one as well. So for a prediction, I think I'm just swaying towards Brentford. You know, I'm going to say 2-1 Brentford. FIFA saying 1-1. It's a tricky one to call. And then to round things off with Sunday's game, which does see West Brom going up against Swansea. Now, we'll start out with Swansea, who I thought got a little bit unlucky in their last game, losing against Fulham. They had some great chances going forward, and if it wasn't for some great saves from Rodak, Swansea certainly would have got something from that game. And they'll bring a goal threat into this one, I mean, no doubt. Having a fairly consistent record away from home so far this season as well, they could offer an upset in this one. But West Brom at the moment, they're just rolling through and grinding out teams at the moment, winning their last 5 matches in the Championship. Their last game being quite a controversial one against North End, and I'm still not over this game, but Kyle Edwards winning that penalty late on goes on to win the game for West Brom and continues their streak. But I will give credit to West Brom in that game, because although they weren't sort of blowing us out the water, you could tell they had something about them. And I don't know how to sum up really, but you can tell how good the team is by watching them just in possession. And I'd say that the two sides that I've seen come to Deepdale so far this season that have sort of had that it factor about them when they've been on the ball, having smart, intelligent moves through midfield, have been West Brom and Leeds. Sawyers was absolutely dictating the tempo of them going forward. He plays so many forward passes, which I think is brilliant. I think that's actually quite an underrated trait for the midfielders now, that like to play it sideways and backwards, but Sawyers was always getting his head up, looking to make them tick going forward. Obviously, Pereira was trying to create things as well, and if Swansea defensively aren't set up correctly for this one, then West Brom can completely tear you apart. In the end, against North End, it took a bit of a dodgy penalty for them to win that game, but you'd feel like if we'd taken the foot off the gas even slightly and we had allowed them to get in behind, and as soon as they do get that first goal, they can run away with the game. So Swansea need to start well for this one. At home, I do think they're doing really well at the moment, though. Defensively, they're also looking really solid, and so for a prediction, I think I will back West Brom. I'll say 2-0 with FIFA going for a goalless draw. But guys, there you have it. That will now wrap it up for my Championship score prediction. So as always, leave your comments in the comments down below as to what you think is going to happen for a chance to be involved in the next video. But apart from that, thanks very much for watching. So if you did go on to enjoy, make sure you leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. Make sure you subscribe for a bit of regular Championship content. But apart from that, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.